It's Captain Matt here with Captain's Quarters First Class, a podcast about outdoor lighting, Christmas lighting, landscape lighting, soffit lighting. And I am really fucking pumped about today. We have a living legend coming on. If you are in the Christmas industry, go ahead and guess who it is. My first real Christmas guest, and I'm pumped to have him on. I'll give you a few seconds to talk amongst yourself. Who's this going to be? This man is the original. We're talking almost 3 decades of experience. He was one of the guys who started this whole industry and helped shape it for what it is today. And of course, if you don't know yet, I am talking about Mr. Josh Trees, the owner and founder of We Hang Christmas Lights. You guys have definitely heard him. You've probably been trained by him, and he's a guest on the show right now. I'm going to bring him up. Hey, Josh, how you doing, brother?
Doing good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I really thank you for coming on, man. You are, like I said in the intro, that wasn't no bullshit. You are a living legend in this industry, man. And
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Been doing it for a while. You know, there's some of the OGs that I consider that are, out there too, that are 20 years older than I am. That were, doing it back in the 1950s. But yeah, I kind of was one of the first to get it started on the residential level for sure out in San Diego with my little spray painted poster board signs. So appreciate all the love, man. It's
absolutely
great to hear and great to be on your podcast finally. Long overdue, huh?
Yeah. It's been a minute. We've been trying to make this schedule work, and it's working perfectly today. We've got Trans World coming up here on March 26th through the 29th, I believe. You're hosting a big whole Red Suit Savage thing. I'll be on there as well, kind of dropping some knowledge as well. We'll get into that. Actually, let's talk about that, and then we'll get back into like the origin story. So tell me a little bit. You got Red Suit Savage seemed to come out of seemingly nowhere. It was like, holy shit, it's all over.
I get savage sometimes, brother. Yeah. So Red Suit Savage is kind of like our creed, I guess you'd say. Like, because a lot of people have been like, dude, I see like these different brands. Even my salespeople are getting kind of like a little bit discombobulated, but we got it all together. But because we do, we have the Christmas light dude coming out. We have WeHangChristmasLights.com that we're completely revamping. We have Hyperion Lights, which is our private label brand of lights, and then we have the Christmas Light Collective, which is our training division pretty much. And then we have Red Suit Savage, which Red Suit Savage, man, is kind of like, I was looking at the tattoo on my arm, Relentless. And it's kind of like in our industry, I think it's a lot of industries. Sometimes you got to get savage. And I was thinking about that about half an hour ago, because a lot of people have been asking me about that. And really the gist of it is just more of like high level, like commercial training events, the P squared, E squared stuff that you see me posting, which is P squared, E squared is plan, prepare, execute, evaluate. And it's really about building systems in a business. And it's a process that happens daily, hourly, sometimes weekly, monthly, of course. And that all kind of falls into it. But, the gist of the Red Suit Savage is, like I said, man, sometimes I've been pulling some 15, 16-hour days for the last several weeks. Even my boys are like, dude, when are you going to, go out and get outside and do some stuff? And it's because when I really dive into something, I get a passion for it. And I've been reading more books lately, doing things like that. I kind of go all in, man. And it's hard for me to, I'm a little bit ADHD, and it's hard for me sometimes to switch gears, which sounds ironic when I say that, but I'll just get in and I go all in when I'm really, really vested in something. And I'm excited about that. And like I said, it's more of a vibe. It's more of, the way that I've done business is, I know the word friendly competitor is out there, but sometimes I get savage with competitors too. I've been to war a few times. I've been to battle. And when it comes to business, sometimes you got to be a warrior, and that's what I am. And that's what Red Suit Savage is all about. But it's really also about that learning experience. And the 1-year program that I'm doing is kind of like you with coaching. Because I don't like, I'm having a 2-day event. I'm going to do one of them. But the reason I'm only doing one is that I don't feel like, for me to tell somebody that you're going to start as it pertains to a commercial division, which is a lot of what this is about, is I'm doing a 1-year program also. And it's really pretty reasonable in cost. It's $15,000 and it's, 52 weeks. And the kind of money that can be made in commercial. I mean, my kids did a small job in California that made, it was a $7,500 job. Materials cost was like $1,500. It took them 6 hours. You know, it was a retail store. So, and that's a small, you know, a small place right there. So, you know, it's kind of like I'm just really, you know, I've been doing the training events forever, and we're going to continue to do those. The A to Z, I think that's different to get somebody up to speed, show them how to do the Christmas lights in general. But as far as jumping in like commercial and things like that, it really is a process, as you know. And I'm talking about more for the people that want to say, look, I truly want to do a commercial division, not just a handful of jobs, because as we know, those come organically. This is more for like, I want to do 250, 300, 500,000. And I'm also vetting people in the process to make sure that they're the right fit as well. Because as you know, also, again, because you've done your fair share commercial, it takes time, investment in time. It takes money. It takes commitment. It takes the commitment to buy, you know, have some money for some materials that get more expensive that you're going to lease out. And yeah, I'm excited, man. You're part of the Red Suit Savage crew as far as I'm concerned, and that's kind of what it is people that are in our group. And I'm not talking about like a fraternity or some, you know, like something.
Sure, no, I get it.
I'm just talking about like people that are common interest and how we roll. And I'm super excited about being with you and your team and Emma and Shane and you, David Felt at Tough Clips out at the Installers Island. And I think it's going to be a new blood that we're bringing this year to Trans World, because I'm actually excited this time. I used to always kind of be in a bad mood.
I was going to say, like for the last maybe couple months, right? It's like who fucking woke Josh up, right? And I don't mean you were like sleeping, but like, you know, you've been, we'll just say like the king of the training Christmas industry, the king of the Christmas industry. And you were just there. Now all of a sudden it's like, okay, I'm standing up at this fucking pro and we're about to fucking go to war.
You poke the bear, you know, you poke the bear a couple times and the bear comes out of hibernation. And a lot of times I am more behind the scenes, because you know me, man, I'm not the type. For a while there, when Matt and I were doing stuff back in the day, we were always on Facebook doing stuff. And I'll get back to doing that with my boys when I get my studio. I was telling you back here. But I'm not into the smoke and mirror shit, man. And like, you know, thinking that everybody has to, you know, see everything about me and whatever. And there's nothing wrong with that. I get the influencers, but I do it, like you said, I do a lot behind the scenes, and I'm a real strategy person, thinking about the big picture, and I care about the people I train too. I'm not just looking to crank out numbers. You and I've had that discussion about smaller classes. I don't like, it's like herding cats when you get too many people there, but you're absolutely right. There has been a big change. And that was initiated, you know, number one, by just some overall changes in my life, but living healthier, trying to lose some weight, living a cleaner life. But a lot of that is, man, I get fueled by fire, and I'm very competitive by nature. Even Lisa, sometimes, you know, my wife very well, she'll say, man, you needed that little poke, you know, and that's what sometimes I do. And it gets my brain going, man. And I just, I love business. I love business in general. I always have. I've been an entrepreneur since I was 22 officially. You know, I'm not going to talk about like when I had a lawnmower and I pushed it around and did a few yards when I was 13 or 14. I started my own lemonade stand. Of course, I did all that shit and sold golf balls. But officially, I started my first boat rental business when I was 22, and then added the Christmas lights the second year. So I've been at it now. God dang, fuck, you know. I'm 51 now, man. So there's a lot of gray in this beard, and it's shaving. It had a lot of gray before I shaved it down. And so I've been around the block. I've been through the ringer a few times, and I know how to take it. And like I said, it just gets me pumped, man. It's a good thing. It gives me the energy in the right way. So I don't want to be detrimental to anybody, but like I said, when I'm going up against competitors, it's like, people throw out, well, there's always enough business for everybody. And that's true. But, you know, we're thinking in our head, I'm going to get as much business.
That's right. I want 90%
I'm going to get my big piece of that pie. Yeah.
Yeah. No, and I love that's what, you know, I've had lots of discussions on that, like, you know, smaller groups, you know, with what I'm doing with Captain's Crew. And that's what I love about your commercial, right? Even when those guys are learning it, or when you train guys into Christmas, right? I'm not a guy who trains you how to install a light. I'm a guy who, hey, you're in it. Let's focus on the business. How do we grow that? So I'm thrilled that you're like really pushing
delegation, time management, right? Leveling up. Delegation is huge. Time management is huge. I mean, one of the things we did, like our lady just left. She's going to to work on one of the guest houses here on the farm that we live at, but it's we hired like the cliched house manager, really just a house helper. I called it my Alice back from the Brady Bunch. And it's not because I don't I don't really like doing dishes. I'll do it. And then same thing with Lisa. Or I love mowing the yard. That's one thing. Dude, get me on a zero turn out there, listen to some music. I'll stay for 6 hours, but that doesn't pay the bills. And washing dishes doesn't pay the bills, and vacuuming and household chores, and like I told you, I was trying to live a little healthier, chopping up the vegetables. Yeah. All that stuff takes time, man. You'd be amazed. You can't, in a way, time is very funny because obviously you can't really go back in time. Obviously, that's not possible. Right. And I always tell people, I'm big on like people be like the good old days and like look at a picture and like, man, I wish I was back there. I'm sure you do that with your kids. And I think find myself saying, you know what? 10 years from now, I'm probably going to say that same thing. Yeah. So let me utilize, the older you get, the more you think about it, I think, but let me utilize that time as good as I can. And that's where delegation comes in. And Lisa is able to work on the business more because she was doing a lot of that stuff. I was sitting there doing dishes, getting distracted. Oh, there's dishes over here. I'm going to jump over there and do it. And like, it's not about a laziness. It'd be different if I was like, oh, I'm going to go play some fucking video games and sit there and drink beer all day or whatever. Then it might not be really worth it. But yeah, there's things like that. And that's what I can appreciate about you, Matt, is that the basics are easy, right? The C9, fucking mini lights, X wire, that stuff for most people, it's not rocket science. It's more of how do we sell these products? How do we establish, even in the residential markets, becoming such a race to the bottom in these big cities like Dallas, San Diego, LA, Miami, Orlando. And I always tell people, we don't even mention the price to the end, like for the people that I train, because it's been a while since I've been on an estimate for sure, but I remember it like it's yesterday. I mean, people, well, I love it also when people are like, oh, Josh isn't actually out there doing a division, whatever. Well, number one, I've been out there hundreds of times on that ladder, tracking the dog shit up on the dirt, 10 o'clock at night. I'm sure you've been there in some yard. We're never fucking coming back to this house. And, literally you don't forget that stuff. And it is basic fundamentals. And I think for people for me to be on a truck or be running a crew would be absolutely asinine. It'd be against everything that I say. It's, what happens if you break your leg, Matt, right? What happens if you end up, God forbid, you get cancer or something, man, and you got to do chemo for 6 months or, an alternative treatment, whatever your bag is on that. But that is, I don't want people to own a job. It's perfectly fine. It's better than working a job, I suppose, for sure. But I want to show people like you're doing the same thing. We're on that same page of, I want to show you how to own a business where whether you're, come down with something, God forbid, some major life change, or you just want to be in the freaking beach in Cabo for a couple of weeks and not have to answer your phone unless it's like extremely, extremely important.
Or how about this? Even a 3-day weekend and not answer your phone. I know so many guys that can't. I used to be that guy. You can't even fucking take a 3-day weekend.
Right. Because you're so tied to everything. And that's when I say like the P squared E squared, where it's a process and it's about building systems. And when you do that and you evaluate things, you get better and better and better. And eventually you build a machine. It's a money-making machine. I equate it to oil wells. It's like with my WeHangChristmasLights.com. A lot of people, I've had people that have been on there for as long as 20 years, and a bunch for over 12 to 13 years. And you build the machine, you build the oil well. And then what happens? It runs efficiently, and then you're paying probably 10 to 15% of that in maintenance. And that's what I want people to do, is build up a business that becomes like a machine. And a lot of people are so afraid of change. I was at the speaking engagement in Myrtle Beach, and there wasn't a lot of people there. But when I asked about how many people were afraid of change, they were surprisingly honest, and a lot of hands went up. And I'm like, man, you got to get past that. You got to, I don't know if it's to do with people's childhood, their mentality, their, structure. Because I had a lot of turmoil growing up. I had a lot of changes growing up. So for me, it's like Lisa will say, and my, people that know me well, dude, you can change things. I'm bad at making plans because I'm so used to things changing.
I know that.
Like I told you about Branson. I'm like, yeah, we're going to Branson on Friday, but that could change.
Right.
So in business, you've got to be, there's times where you've got to switch gears, even if that means losing a bunch of money because you did something but you found a better way to do it. Or it's kind of like the same thing as gambling. I'm not a big gambler, but I've been around some gamblers, and it's like, when you're losing, you're on a losing streak. Sometimes you just have to walk away, and I was in the equipment business. I got my ass handed to me, and I could have done it a different way. And I went against my principles and made a couple bad decisions, because it still happens. I mean, that was only 3 years ago. And, mentors of mine, people that are friends of mine, they're like, dude, just walk away. Take the loss of a couple $100,000. It's a good tax deduction. And next time, don't invest in $800,000 in equipment out of the gate. Maybe get 100,000. So it's just the example that I use of like how I had to change, and it went against like my, I guess you would say, pride, because nobody likes to lose. I hate to lose, but every once in a while, you have to take a lose to get the wins, and that. You've had anybody in business that's been in for any length of time. We've all had our losses, right? And the most important thing is to fucking look forward, because again, you can't change time. You can't change what happened. You can't change the past, but you can navigate the future a lot better based off the experiences that you've had.
Yeah. You can always make more money. You'll never be able to make more time. Right.
That's right. And as long as, and health is very important, like for everybody. It's like, because when you, I would say that, you're right. As long as you have your health, guys like you and I, and a lot of people that we know, and a lot of people out there, we'll always figure out a way to make a buck, man. It might be, 100,000 one year and, 6 million the next year. It could fluctuate, but, we go knock on freaking doors. I go around on my little scooter, I'm still not fully walking. I'm walking. I'll probably have to have that damn scooter at one more trade show. We'll have it. We can send the kids on we can send the kids for the fast runs for the sandwiches and all that. But
perfect.
When I'm getting to the point, man, I've lost like 30 pounds, and I'm getting to the point where
awesome.
That's my next biggest thing, is really focusing on that stuff. Because you're right. I mean, when you got it, I think you can repeat it as long as you keep certain things good in your life.
Yeah. I mean, that's what in my program, right? We say there's those 4 core areas: body, being, balance, and business. Well, if one of those things is off, the other ones suffer. You just can't argue. It's you spend all your time, you become that one-dimensional douchebag just working on your business, and then your family life suffers, and then your health suffers. It's all connected. And it's funny how guys like us, we put so much money and effort into the business, and the other areas we're like, they'll take care of itself. And
I think it's what it is you get that passion, you dive into it, man. And then that's where you got to pull yourself back and be like, okay, well, time's passing too. And what do I really want? What do I really want? And that was a lot different at 30 versus 40 versus 50. Now I'm more about experiences and time, and like, because you could be 50, man, 60 is not far off. And then 70 and the fuck it, 80. It's like, holy crap, will I even be alive then? But but I think it's just and I think that's one of the reasons that you do delegate things that you can, whether it's using, we've got a couple of VAs right now, probably going to hire, or we got one right now, our designer, we're about to hire another, and probably hire one more, because anything that you can outsource, I think, is also very smart to do, as long as you're outsourcing it to the right people and you're still keeping tabs on it. Because with virtual assistants over in the Philippines, or I think Brazil's starting to do some, other places, Mexico, I think it's very important that people know that there is absolutely still a key component of management to those people over there. Otherwise, it's going to be a complete waste of money. I know it's cheap, and it's a lot less in here, but you're just literally burning money if you don't manage them, because it's important. But that's just one of the ways that we choose to delegate, and through smart systems that we have in place, because everybody, my whole staff, it's like, I'll tell Megan all the time, my VP of marketing, and like, hey, this is kind of below your level of what you should be doing. And pretty soon, when enough of that compiles, we definitely need to get a VA. You need to come to me and tell me, because I don't want to be penny wise and pound foolish,
Yeah, where, the most expensive person is doing the most meaningless tasks. Like,
it happens all the time. You got to be able to, you can't be afraid to let go of certain stuff. I mean, take the time, whether it's 2 hours or 2 weeks. And that's the other thing. And people are like, oh, but they can never do it like I can. Well, maybe that's true, or maybe they can fucking do it better than you, right? We don't know. There's people that can do my job better than me, I guarantee you. But And where I excel is putting people together, ideas and follow through and execution on the ideas, which is important too. But really like narrow down like where your time is the most effective. Because I love doing design work too, and I love doing branding and that kind of stuff. But I have to watch myself on that because I'm like, I need to get just the framework for it and then hand it over, because it's not smart, even though I enjoy it. It's not smart for me to be doing 12 hours of content or design or logos and stuff. And actually, the designer takes my ideas and does it a lot better. So the times I have spent like 6 hours, I'm like, fuck, dude, I should have just sent this over from the beginning, and Maureen would have done it a lot better. So
yeah. And I know, especially when you first start hiring people, it is super hard. Well, it was for me to like let go and like just give them the opportunity to sink or swim. And once I finally just did and was like, what's the worst that happens if they do fuck up? Like, what? I just fix it.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. What's the worst that can happen? And what's the worst? I've even told people, even people that like when you take chances, well, what happens if this, that, the other, don't worry about all that shit. I mean, you got to go. I'm all about calculated risk. Don't do stupid stuff. I'm not saying that, but you do have to borrow money at times. And you know what? If you get in a position where, the government came up with bankruptcy so that certain people don't blow their brains out, over money situations. Because people are like, well, what happens if I lose it all? Well, dude, if you never take the risk, more than likely, you're the type of person, because if I'm telling people this, I come across, I really believe in them. And I'm not going to guide, some dumbass like, oh man, go do this and do that. But you do have to take chances. You do have to build credit. You do have to put it out there if you want to grow. And if you want to expedite that growth, there's a couple ways, and that's either getting private equity and giving part of your company up, or investor giving your company up, or borrowing the money. And literally, that is the worst that can happen. Is that, how many times has Trump filed bankruptcy? Like, a lot of successful people that I know have had to do that. It's a business tactic, and it's a business thing, and personal as well. But you're it's a good point that you're saying, is that a lot of times people are just, they don't want to dive in fully, and that's okay. But they're never going to get to that level of, like you said, where you get to enjoy that. I mean, the biggest company I ever had, I started when I was 32. It was called BMG Marketing and Promotions. I've told you about it. It was a sign spinner company. We had over 600 employees, most of them temporary on the weekends, and then 32 full-time. And my former business partner and I worked our asses off, dude, for about the first 13 months. And we developed those systems. And then it was beautiful. I was making more money than I ever had in my life, including now. And and like sick money. And not like Grant Cardone money, but pretty damn good for, that age and everything.
Yeah.
And it was, but the funny thing was, we worked less than I ever had to, because our day consisted of team meetings, strategizing, going to the gym for an hour and a half in the morning, followed by like Starbucks with me and Matt for a half hour. And then it was meetings. And then it was like a 2-hour lunch at Hooters. We're so wild those days. And then literally we were back at home most days, man, by like 3:00, spending time with the kids when they were little. And that was a great thing. And that was because we relied on other people. These companies are like a big chain of like a pyramid, and it's just a bunch of spots. And I had it written on paper before we ever did it. And that's what I suggest for the people that want to grow. And I'll be more than happy to help them do that, is think about positions in your company. It's almost like legs growing, right? As you expand, because it's a lot of the same thing. It's just more good people doing it. And I'll tell you, I don't care what level it's at. It does take about, I say 2.5. I know, we're not going to cut a person in half or whatever, but you know what I mean when I say it's about 2.5 people that you have to go through before you find good people. And that we found that and it was the signs, we had those guys that were flipping the signs everywhere and putting up huge 10-foot balloons that said new homes on them. And I'll tell you, aside from the sign spinners, which was huge turnover, but even at the admin level, the HR recruiting level, the fucking operations manager level, it all kind of rang true to that. Like, you think somebody's going to be dynamite, and then they show up at the company party. It's true stories, and they're like sexually like harassing girls there, or I can tell you some stories, but we'll do that another time. But I probably have shared some of them with you. But It is. Yeah. It takes a lot to get there, but it's so enjoyable when you do that. The benefits are just enormous. And you've built that business that also is it's much more viable to sell a business when you're not actively involved, because then you don't have to stay with that. And it's not a concern, right? No,
Yeah,
I just have several businesses and it runs itself. Matt's my, Captain Matt's my GM of it, or my president of that, and whatever. And that's I love that. I love seeing people that have multiple things going like that. That's kind of a goal of mine, is to get to that point where I do have multiple things going on.
Sure, absolutely. Let's rewind for a minute. We've talked about, this has been a fascinating conversation, but for a lot of the guys listening, they're just starting out, or maybe they're in year 2 or 3. Bring me back to before, like, even We Hang started. It was just Josh out there. Right. You said you were renting boats and stuff, and then you started doing Christmas lights. Was your name We Hang Lights, like, when you started, as just Josh out there hanging lights?
No, it was actually called National Decor and Lighting, and we had a little cheesy pine tree with a road leading up to it, which was just a character off of probably like print shop or something.
Right. Clip art, right?
Clip art. It was clip art, 100%. And it's called National Decor and Lighting. And we did, though, on the signs, which we started doing signs year 2, I believe. And it was amazing, the response we had from signs. We went from getting a few calls a day from passing out flyers to literally 100 calls a day. We had caller ID back then, and it would only register up to 99 calls. And every day it was like 99 calls. And but we did put We Hang Christmas Lights on that sign. And then about 4 years later, I bought the domain name WeHangChristmasLights.com, and that's when we switched everything over to WeHangChristmasLights.com. And the early years were a lot different than the beginning years, from these younger guys, because these systems don't happen overnight. And I'm a firm believer, though, that for the new guys, go to a training event. There's tons. I've trained half the people out there. I'm not saying go to mine. Mine's the best, but
I'll say go to Josh's.
But there's a lot of diluted versions of them, and some of them are very good. But go to a training, get that knowledge. It's so affordable now because everybody's just ripping each other on price on it. And yes, you know what? A lot of us do make money off the lights and materials that we sell, but we sell them at great prices. And guess what that means for you? For the guys that are there, when you're a winner, we're a winner. Our success depends on your success, right? It's like the more lights that you put up, the more you buy from me, the better off we are. So it's like, for the people like, oh, they're calling them out, they're selling lights. It's actually a beautiful thing, because we're assisting along the way. Because if you can get that foundation of, at least, I like to say that when somebody goes to a training event, at least one of mine, I kind of put them into year 3. They still got to cut their teeth, like, so let's say a brand new guy. And we have a lot of people that have been up to 10, 12 years that come to our events. And I'll tell you, Matt, I'm not beyond at all learning from other people. I've had it a lot. What I love about the in-person training events is that it gets a lot of great minds together. You got the class clowns too, that are like, you want to boot the hell out, but that just comes with the territory. But it's that's a great thing to do. And then also, you just got to stick with it, man. And you got to work hard. I hate this shit of make $100,000 in 6 weeks. It drives me bananas. And because 30,000 is good in 6 weeks your first year. First of all, it's more like 8 weeks, and right?
Yeah, oh yeah, and then takedown. Let's be real. So
I
was 24.
It's still good money. It's still because I'm talking profit. 40, 50. Everybody in most markets can get up to 100, but it's going to take a few years to get there, even after getting your training. I mean, out of the 1,000+ people I've trained, I can think of maybe 5 that did $100,000 their first year. And you know what? They were huge. There were huge companies that had 15 trucks. They bought $200,000 in lights out of the gate. They had a marketing team. They had everything. So for these younger guys out there, or the older guys too, who let's just call them the newbies, it just takes, man. You and I both would agree. It's not. I would never say that it's easy, but it is very attainable as long as you're willing to put in the work and the hours and the sacrifice that it takes for those first years, and just stick with it, because it's all about retention. It's all about, keeping your customers. Try to get a retention rate of above 90%, and you can't help but make more money year after year.
My first year, I made $3,000 in my pocket. And that for me was like so fucking motivating. Like I was excited. I was 24. It was a side hustle. I didn't even know it was like a thing happening. And, but for me, that was just the thing. And once I just made money, like doing this, like now we're 7-figure Christmas light installation company.
You're crushing it. Yeah. I mean, it took time to get there, right? It took baby steps.
Yeah, for sure. My first client is still my client though. It's been 18 years.
That's great because that's pretty unusual that's pretty awesome. And especially in the residential world, a little more common in the commercial world, but sure. I got a little off track, which is not surprising.
So you were decorating, you were Decor International, you were doing We Hang lights on the signs, kind of came naturally, bought the domain. Like when did you say, hey, maybe I should teach or license this out to others? Like what was that moment?
Well, that was in about year 6. And I felt like at that point, we kind of got in there. We kind of figured out like, even from the beginning, like don't sell on the price, sell on the experience. Okay. We're selling an experience. We're not just selling lights and slinging lights. We're selling the look on the kid's face when they get home, when they leave for school in the morning, because we have multiple settings on timers to where a lot of places where it's dark, let's get those lights going in the morning. We want to sell when you're sitting at your kitchen table. That's why I always tell people, look at the backyards too. Look outside the kid's window. Don't seem like a pervert, but be like, hey, is there a special tree that we can light up? Because little Johnny wants to sit there and look at it as he falls asleep. So we are, this, just like with landscape lighting, we're selling the experience. We're not selling the pictures. We're not selling that. And that's when I got really good at that, I was like, you know what? I've got everything else down. I've got the sales and marketing side down. I took the time to develop the manuals, which took about a year because, if I would have sat down, it would have taken 2 weeks, but we didn't have the technology back then either. I mean, we were still fucking digital cameras, dude. It's funny. I mean, the fax machine was huge. I mean, things that it's so funny because I am an old dog now. So I go back to that stuff and people are like, what are you talking about? A fax machine or, certain things, fax machine, most people know what that is. But I said, you know what? Christmas decor was around at that time, out of Texas. And they were franchised, and I was like, man, that looks like a lot of fun. And that looks like a lot easier way to expand versus corporate locations, And I just went to an attorney and said, hey, talking about franchising. He's like, well, it's going to cost you $100,000. I'm like, well, I don't got $100,000. Well, why don't you do this? Let's do a marketing affiliate program. Very much the same. You just don't take royalties. You don't have control over their buying. You can still sell lights to them if they want to buy them. I was like, hey, that sounds great. How much? $3,000. No,
sold.
I still use the same contract pretty much. There's been a few little changes along the way, but that's kind of what got me there. And then I really enjoyed it, man. It's one of the aspects that I'm really not burnt out on. As long as I get a good group of people, which I always do. I always get, especially the last couple years, it seems like we've been lucky, knock on wood, that we didn't have the idiot in the class that knows everything. So it's like, why be there? You want to teach the class. And so I really enjoyed that, man. And I've had some pretty prolific people that stories, like somebody came to me that I taught that was a pastor, and he was a teacher full-time, really didn't like his job very much, teacher and a coach in Louisiana where they make dirt money. And he was a youth pastor, and his name's David. And I've had a handful of people that come and said, I really appreciate it. But he's like, Josh, I don't know if you understand this, man, but you taught me. And he's pretty successful. He's got a good operation, hitting over $100,000 a year profit in Louisiana. And he was like, that enabled me to quit my job that I didn't like, my wife to be a full-time mom, and for me to be able to still do lights, but then the rest of the time pastor. And more than that, he said, they're also doing lots of missions. So he's all through you. And he's a very religious, man, and to the core, and like the true deal. You know what I mean? And he's like, we're going to touch so many people in our way that you helped us to do. And that was cool. That kind of like was one of the things that brought like chills to my, because I was like, wow, I never really thought about that. I just thought like helping people make money is cool, but that was like the next level of it, which was really cool. So
you realize the experiences that come from that, right? It's not just the money. And then you realize, hey, the same shit I'm selling is actually, just expanding. And
Right. It's like you can do this in any city, right? Small cities, big cities. It's easier in bigger cities, or I love medium-sized cities, but like where you're at is a great place to be. And up in New York. And then the other thing is then we started distribution. And I kind of liked that. And then I hated it. I hated being a slave to a warehouse. So as of last year, we started doing everything where we drop ship everything through multiple facilities and people can pick it up in 5 different cities across the United States. But I love that, man, because you know me, I love to travel. I love to be different places, and I don't do well with like having to be here at a certain time, except for training events or trade shows. I'll usually make those.
Right.
We canceled one because of the tornado, but we still ended up doing because one guy didn't get the cancellation. So that was our smallest class was one person from Reno, Nevada. That I couldn't say no, man. This guy traveled out, and I was ready to go clear my head in East Texas and jump on the tractor. Turned it around. Mitchell Jeter helped me do it, and it was a one-person training. A lot of it just sitting around a table at a Tex-Mex restaurant. So, yeah, I really enjoy it, man. I really enjoy it. I would say that's my favorite part, and I love the marketing. I love helping people come up with creative brands and ways to get the word out, because I'm also a big proponent of perception is reality, and reality becomes perception, and those lines border very closely. And that's a whole nother podcast. I can get into
right. We can dive into that another time for sure. Yeah, hell yeah. So one of the things that made you like a legend, and it was brilliant marketing, is you literally towed a fucking tiny house across the country. Like, where did that idea, like what, you're just sitting there one day and like, hey, Lisa, let's get the kids and fucking tow a tiny house?
Dude, I was, here's the deal, man. And it's like ordinary people do crazy shit, right? And I always tell people ordinary people do extraordinary things. And, and that's, that's our helper knock on the door. We got a special package. So anyways, I was driving down the freeway in California, and I remember it like it was yesterday. It was in 2017, towards the end of the year, and I saw them selling these structures on the side of the road that were like not tiny houses, but like tiny sheds and stuff. And the idea was like, you know what? I need to create a little tiny shed and take it around the, and use it in Southern California, wherever. I'm like, no, fuck that. We need to hit the road, and we need to do like, 12 events was my goal in 3 months. And I have an 11-year-old and a 13-year-old. My wife's like, you're freaking nuts. I go to vendors. I get American Lighting, which I don't really deal with them anymore, but they were good to us. Action Lighting, Rinders, Tough Clips, Lightnetics, a couple of others. And I said, look, I'm doing this crazy. Should I show Matt here in a second? Yeah. Okay, I got to show you this. This is my biggest treat I bought myself in probably 20 years since I bought her. Since Lisa bought me a Rolex. So it just happened to get here UPS. So I'm going to show you here in a second after I finish the story, because it's a good one. I love it. I just like to share it because I took a big risk, and people are like, you're nuts, dude. You're going to go do this. But they believed in me because those guys knew I facilitated probably. They're like, Josh Trees will come up, and I love the legend and all that stuff. But you know me, I'm also not a big guy. And I'm just like, that's why I say ordinary guy can become the legends, and for some stories like this. But I went to them and they thought I was kind of crazy, but kind of like, dude, that's a cool idea. Are you really going to do this? Yeah. What about your kids? We're going to homeschool them. It turned out to be a nightmare. but we ended up going, and I built a tiny house. I had my buddy Curtis build it. So I find start investigating tiny houses, and some of this shit was way too expensive. It was like $100,000. I'd raised about $60,000, and Minleon also participated. Dean over at Minleon, the owner, and I generated some money, and it was enough to cover the cost for the tiny house itself, which was about $35,000, and then a partial on the road because it was expensive. It was about $5,000 a week, or if not more. So I ended up building the tiny house, which you've seen many times. A lot of people have on wheels. go buy every fucking safety thing you can buy, okay? Because the thoughts going through my the week before, I'm like, I'm going to be going through mountains in Denver. I'm going to be going through fucking thunderstorms, possibly, you know, maybe even a tornado. So I'm buying like the seat buckle cutter. The horn. Dude, I still got it all like in storage because we never busted it out. The triangles to set up if you have a problem. So anyways, everything you possibly imagine I got. And I was so nervous, dude. I couldn't sleep. I mean, I was like, shit, the few days leading up to it, I was like, what have I got myself into? And then I did the first event in Denver, dude. And it was like, boom, wow, this was all worth it. And then that first drive to Denver, kind of, you know, we went through some mountains on that because we were coming from California. So that was a good first drive. And I'm like, you know, white knuckling, I rented a big, really nice 2,500 Dodge truck from Barco Rentals. And it was, it turned out to be so much fun, man. And it was just like, it was an idea. It was a fucking crazy idea that came to my head. And there was times where I was about to send the family home. And then finally they started behaving because we were like 3 weeks from Florida, which meant Disney World. But literally there was times where Wyatt and JW, you know, both my boys well.
Yeah.
We were pulling off on the side of the road on Interstate fucking 40 or something. And I'm like pulling my belt off because they're beating the crap out of each other in the back seat. And then there was also great memories like them helping when they're 11 and 13. And I remember Wyatt carrying a water flat from our room was like 800, 1,000 yards away. And he was a strong kid. He still is strong as hell. And carrying a whole water flat and people were real impressed in the elevator. I'm like, dude, he's been carrying up for like hundreds of yards. Right? Oh my God, back to our room on the 5th floor at some Disney resort. And it was stories like that in Niagara Falls. And it was a great thing. And like I said, I'm thinking about doing it again, man, because this time I'll be planned, prepared. I've evaluated the shit out of it. You know, we would have special tubs. We would have it down to a T. And one of my boys, JW, would be down with helping on the road. So it might be in the cards, man. It was a lot of work. It was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun too. But I touched I shook a lot of hands, and I taught a lot of people a great trade, and that's the only reason I'm, you know, considering doing it again. But yeah, that was
I mean, because I've
glad you brought that up.
Family, and I mean, the stories like that ends up becoming like, if I'm not mistaken, like one of the best times for your family overall. Of course,
it was, man. It was,
but also a crazy idea that
we'll always talk about it, man. And I'll never sell that tiny house. You know, if we ever are blessed with grandchildren, then, you know, they'll be playing in the tiny house because that, or I'll be like having my 80-year-old ass in there still doing the studio stuff. You know, the 80-year-old doing a little studio. But I think it's become a part of our family that we couldn't bear. I'm sure Lisa would be in tears if we sold it. So it's that's why I was glad to do that little $13,000 makeover on it and get her all shined up because you're right. It was probably one of the most prolific, rememberable times that we had. And sometimes that takes some hard times, man. I tell the boys all the time, I'm like, if you don't have hard times, you can't experience the good times. That's like, I used to call when I was down in boat rowing business, we were on the K dock, which was the transient dock, which means some big ass boats came down there. You know, like what's that guy's name that owned Blockbuster? I don't know. I'm sure he still got money, but he had Blockbuster and he owned the Marlins. He came down in his 280-foot yacht. And some of those guys were really cool, and some of them were the biggest. I met one of the founders of Home Depot one time. He was on a 150-foot sailboat called Tabasco. Coolest guy I've ever met in that arena. And then some of them are total assholes, and you would find out which ones. Like, oh yeah, that's the guy. He's 75 or whatever. You know, and the captain. His grandfather was like, or his great grandfather was the founder of the Reynolds mines, which is Reynolds Aluminum, which means the dude never worked a day in his life.
Sure.
And he was just an asshole because he probably didn't experience hard times. I mean, who knows? Maybe in his own way that he did. I shouldn't say that. But, you know, that makes us appreciate the good times. And if everything's just honky-dory, you don't probably have as many stories to tell.
You don't even know you're in the good times.
That's right. That's a good way to put it. You don't even know, you know, when those. And that's why hard work also, because it makes you appreciate it. Like, man, I worked hard. I kind of glorify sometimes the old days, these times. And I'm like, would I want to be back to it? Hell no. But you know what?
That's right.
That grind, there's something to be said for it, man. When you're, you know, filling up jet skis at 5 a.m, you've been pulling them out because they got swamped and she had to work on them till midnight. And I think it just builds character in people, and perseverance too. And it shows you that you can do it, and it gives you confidence by doing that kind of stuff.
Right?
And the same thing in the Christmas lights, man. It's a grind. You know that until you get it down with the right system, the right ways. I'm sure you've had those nights where you're at freezing ass cold. San Diego, we get down to 40 and we're like freezing. That sea layer's coming in, we're freezing ass cold. So it's all relative, but still, when it starts getting dark and it starts getting colder, and you still got 3 hours, especially back in the incandescent days, because you're like, what the fuck is popping on these circuits? What is
don't fall, glass
for
breaking.
Christ's sake, where is the bad bulb, right? But when you look back on it, you're like, it really wasn't that bad, because then afterwards, man, or after a few days of grinding hard, we had that rainy day and we all went to the pizza place and had a bunch of beers and, with the guys and the crew. And, there was
those bad memories, they seem to kind of shift and fade away more so than the good memories that you can lock onto. It's funny how that works.
I think so. I think the bad, and I think the war stories kind of stay with you because they're not really bad. They're just the days of like, when you say, oh yeah, man, I did that. I was,
you thought they were bad at the time.
But the bad I've learned, because I've had some bad experiences. I've had some shit that's gone down that really was pretty and I think you've had some of the same stuff where involving partners and different things that were like family. And you got to get past that. You got to put it in the rearview mirror, and you got to say, fuck it, see you later, and let it fuel the fire. If anything, that's kind of what it does for me. But Vince Palasoto, one of my good friends, the owner of Inception Lighting, he's like, you got to let things go, man. Sometimes you just got to let it go for your own good. And he's right, because when you're thinking about that stuff, it's not productive, it's negative. And let it fuel the fire, and then it's just like kind of like, okay, well, that switch is there and it's going to fuel the fire. But the really bad shit, I think you're right, man. I think that's the good thing about it, is it does it leaves you, and you learn who your true friends in life are, and things like that. But and that's a learning experience in itself as well. But I'm glad that you mentioned that, because that's true. And a lot of people hold on to baggage that they don't need to, and it affects their performance going forward, and they don't even realize it because it's just psychological,
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, this has been a great convo. You're going to show me what you got there in the package, or is it gone? I mean, you teased us all now, so
let me show you. Let me bust it out. I'm not gonna try it on you just because you'll see it at the deal at the Trans World. But
okay,
it's my red suit.
Oh boy,
Savage.
Oh hell yeah,
Coach. I'll tell you what it costs when we get there.
Okay.
I couldn't, like I said, I rarely splurge on this kind of stuff, man. But I figured, you know what? I don't want to dress in a Christmas suit, whatever.
Right.
I want to go red suit Savage, brother. And that's
awesome.
You'll get one of these too sometime, because I want to have like this high level, these producers that we hang with, and right inside there we'll embroider it with the red suit Savage. So.
Yeah, that's badass.
I'll be like all paranoid, like, man, I'm gonna lose my jacket, man. Where's my jacket?
You see it?
Yeah. So,
all right, guys. So
something that I'm proud of, man. It's taken a lot. It's been a long time, and I really appreciate you having me on here. And I really look forward to next week, spending a whole week with all you guys. We're gonna have some fun out there, and some great productivity, and some great meetings with a lot of people that I'd like you to meet as well, that I have lined up that you're going to enjoy talking with. So
hell yeah. All right, guys, check out Josh Trees at Trans World, the end of March here. Look him up online at We Hang Christmas Lights, or just go on Facebook, look up Josh Trees. You probably know him. Josh, thank you, sir. Appreciate you. I'll see you.
Thank you, brother.
All right.
We'll see you soon, man. Be safe. Bye.